Let's imagine a city that really feels, really understands, and really cares about human well-being and human flourishing. Now we really are at the tipping point to remind ourselves what is really essential for human nature. Of course, all of these evolutionary leaps that we had previously, like the industrial, like technological, it all brought us to this point. And then once we have all of this access, all of the nicely built infrastructures, nicely available technologies, and they will be advancing further on, the reminder is for all of us, what role plays the real deep understanding of the human nature in all of that evolution. Because we can evidence that technology can be built of various kinds, and that all of the technology is supporting our well-being. Not all of the technology is actually contributing to our flourishing. Sometimes we get addicted to technologies from the early age, and we don't want that. Let's remember one thing. Technology is bearing the intent of its designer. The same way also the design of a city is bearing the intent of the architects and all of the people planning the city or the urban space or the district. So therefore, reminder number one, we human beings are designing everything in our lives, including technologies, including what technologies are doing to us, including architecture, including the design of the urban spaces. Essentially, what is now the most important question, do we understand our own human nature to the depth that we could give proper and meaningful instructions and requirements for the tech developers and for the city architects and planners? I think the time now is to really ask what is purposeful for people, not only for the individuals, but starting from the individuals and then looking for the larger groups, for the communities, for the societies, and then ending up with the cities. Of course, the suggestion is not to rebuild everything. We can always use technologies in smart ways to overlay the built infrastructure that we have today, the architecture of the cities that we have today. And of course, whenever possible, we can also plug in and design in new types of infrastructure that are already built and designed with the intent to be naturally intertwined with human nature and with the goals of human flourishing and evolution, the way that we want. So therefore, question, as I said before, how well we have explored the nature of human beings, and specifically one particular aspect, how people do change. Or in most of the cases, or in many cases, people don't change. And then sometimes those changes are too small or limited in time. And coming from my work, from the scientific work about the typology of change, there are three types. There is transaction, which is a one time. So you can do one thing one time and it would be a change in your life, but it would be just tiny. And then transition, which means for a period of time. And some people really in January say, oh, this year I'm going to do this different thing. And they do it for 1 year, but it doesn't promise that they will continue for the next year. And therefore, after transaction and after the transition, which is a period of time, there should be a transformation. Why? Because from my work and from all of the large body of knowledge from the scientists, if we really want to have a fulfillment, happy life, and well-being and flourishing, it really requires deep and permanent sustainable change, which I call transformation. So if we understand how human beings, which means us, we are able to figure out what helps us to transform, not only to change certain thing or certain behavior for a period of time and just kind of fool ourselves or lie to ourselves just to get some reward or avoid the punishment, which are the typical motivators that have been used and overused for the last decades that I'm criticizing in my talks. And I'm really encouraging for all of us to forget about these because they are really very short-term and limited. And because they are predominantly working with our centers of fear and avoiding the pain or looking for the pleasure. So the difference when we think about human behavioral transformation, human attitudinal transformation, it all comes down how we can sustain change. So therefore, if we understand what helps ourselves to sustain the changes, starting from internally, how do we feel about ourselves? How do we want to improve our lives, starting from the tiny things? How do we take care about our health on a daily basis? How do we brush our teeth, floss our teeth? How we choose what groceries do we purchase? How do we cook our meals? How do we care about our sleep? Those are the tiny things, but once we change them, then we can enable what I call in my work a transformation gene. The transformation gene is something that I refer conceptually, which speaks about our innate ability to understand what the change means and what the transformation means. Historically, we wouldn't be here if in our evolution, our DNA and our genetics wouldn't know and wouldn't see in all of the changes, transformation over thousands of years. So it cannot be otherwise that we actually have in our super intelligent machine, our body, have already inbuilt this concept of transformation gene. It's the only question is to tap into it. And sometimes people need to be reminded they have it. And then the awareness has to be brought to that point where they start with the small things in their lives and they started changing them. And then once they have acquired that confidence and they realized if they can change a small thing in their lives permanently, then they can apply the same mindset, the same power, and the same energy to transform anything in their lives that they want, the personal lives and then the lives of others. Why the others? Because we human beings in our social fabric have the naturally inbuilt mechanism, which is called social mirroring. It's how we are mirroring and shining out and highlighting that what do we have achieved in ourselves is actually available for all of the other people. So one person achieves a certain thing and finally transforms in a particular behavior. Other people cannot really miss that because they will see, oh, and they will ask, Agnes, you become a different person after you stop doing this, and after you stop doing that. And this is not about that they see that my behavior changed, but also they see that I have become a different person. I have become an upgraded human being because I've made this transformation. So this is the basics that we really, as the designers, as a city architects, as a people really caring about the human flourishing at scale, we have to take into account. Why I'm so much emphasizing that is because I trust and I believe we have great engineers, we have great architects, we have great urban specialists. We have them and they do their work to the best possible way that they can do at this moment, and they will excel with that, and there will be new technologies like artificial intelligence will be getting better and also helping us to advance in the direction that they want. But artificial intelligence will be only really helpful for us if we human beings will be able to give really meaningful instructions about what is actually helpful for us to change. Otherwise, we are just tapping into the random places and trying different technology, which of course is fun. But we are not only needing fun, we need really human transformation towards flourishing. And we really would love that all of what we built as the experiences around us would really be supporting our journey toward achieving this health and well-being states. Therefore, one of the practical calls to actions that I really considered lately is how we collectively, scientists, engineers, designers, architects, planners, decision makers, governance, communities, would be reminding ourselves how we could think of including in all of our work possible tiny elements, even architectural elements, that would remind who we are. It's not about the utility of that bus or the experience only about that bus station or whether that bus station is currently having this liquid the sanitizer dispenser, which is great because we are getting ready for any other pandemic. And that's what I'm speaking about, one of the cities, one of the beautiful cities on this planet, which is Paris. But not only that, but also some tiny hints and references what it means to be a human being. We are not only about the utility. We also have this hedonic part, which is about pleasure. And we also need to be in a very balanced state with what makes sense to us, biologically, mentally, physically, evolutionary. So therefore, maybe to summarize that, it would be how to think of everyday work that we will continue doing, integrating with the small, tiny reminders about who we are and what is essential for us. And if we speak about transforming cities, if we speak about transforming cities for human flourishing, and if we really get to the flourishing cities will have in their design, in their architecture, in the experience in that design, those tiny, small reminders everywhere. And it can start with the language, it can start with the pictograms, it can start with the very easy implementable things. So that would be maybe one of the primary calls to action that we can actually start doing today. And with this, I would encourage everyone to contribute your work, your expertise, your experience in collectively finding ways to intertwine the deep understanding of the human nature with technology and with the understanding of how we collectively live in the urban spaces to bring a better life for ourselves, including all of our experiences, private, family, community, society, organizational, business, because it's all part of our universe, our unified field of experience. So I look forward to co-create together with you.